Hello everyone, this is part 45 of What If Naruto Had Two Bloodlines, and I hope you guys enjoy this video and to like, to subscribe, to share, and check out the playlist, to see more comment down below. Now let's start the intro.
They call me a god. They call me a god. They call me a god.
Join my membership, the perks are great. It's in the description. Be sure to like and subscribe, it gives me more motivation. Enjoy. After a few days of spending time with Hinata's relatives, others they had met in the village, and paying their respects, it was time for the group to depart. Nitsuki, it was so nice seeing you again, my precious granddaughters. I wish you could stay longer. Hanabi, us too. Nitsuki, well, I guess I shouldn't make such a big deal about it, we'll see each other again next year. Then you can tell me all about what you've done in the time you were away. Hinata plush Hanabi, right. Hinata, grandmother, I'll keep on training. I'll grow stronger and I won't let you down. Nitsuki, smiles warmly, I'm sure you won't, I'm sure you'll do your best. I'd love you even if you didn't, but promise me something, work on, you know what, while you can. Hinata, what do you mean? Nitsuki, you know, leans in with her pinky out, what we talked about, winks. Hinata, blushing furiously, grandmother. Are you sure about this, milady? One of the Hyuga bodyguards asked. You shouldn't do this on your own, please, allow us to handle this, the other spoke up. Hiashi, quiet you two, if she believes that she can do this on her own, then we will honor her request, but if you need help we're right here. Hinata, thank you father. Tsubame, what's this? Don't tell me you intend to take us on by yourself, how arrogant can you be? From her back Hinata removed her bow and turned to one of the guards for her arrows. Suzume, isn't that cute? She has her little bow and arrow and is ready to go, this should be good, sarcastic tone. She shot one arrow after the other with an increasing rate of speed. It was easy enough for Suzume to dodge at first, but soon it grew more difficult. The more arrows that flew her way in such a limited window started to give her problems, as she had to maneuver to keep her body and her wings from being LD. In order to escape this onslaught, Suzume dove to a lower level and glided towards Hinata, swords ready to carve. Hinata made some hand seals before shooting off another arrow. Suzume easily evaded this one and made a beeline for Hinata. She swung her swords only to have them stopped. In front of Suzume was a circle of chakra that blocked her way to her target. Suddenly, a gap in the circle opened and Hinata took her shot. Suzume quickly took to the air but couldn't avoid getting an arrow in the leg. Suzume, ow, damn it, you little bee, you'll pay for that. Pulling out the arrow. With a look of determination, Hinata prepared to fire another wave of arrows at her airborne foe. Suzume readied herself as Hinata let them fly. Once again she was having a tough time avoiding being hit to the point that she was pinned to a tree. With an arrow in both wings and a few pinning her clothes as well, Hinata figured that she would have an extremely tough time evading the next attack. She pulled back and released an arrow with great force. As the arrow flew at Suzume's head, it was knocked away at the last second. Using her whip, Tsubame saved her partner. Once again Hinata released a slew of arrows into the air. Tsubame quickly dropped from the air to ground level. Tsubame, windy whip, cracking her whip. As she did, a sliver of wind made its way at Hinata. She quickly threw up her hand and blocked it with her chakra shield, Halo. She was relieved that she did it in time, especially since the ground in front of her and a few branches on the trees behind her were SD up. She was surprised to see the effects of Tsubame's attack, and the dangers it spelled for her. Hinata grabbed another arrow and drew back. Tsubame, PFT. That again. Don't you ever learn. Hinata quickly shifted her aim towards the other girl and fired a few rounds. Suzume, CRAAAP. Preparing for the worst. Tsubame, Suzume. In order to save her partner, Tsubame used her whip to cut the arrows off. Suddenly, she felt a sharp pain in her right hand. It was a well-placed arrow and it had LD her whip hand, causing her to drop it. As it fell, Hinata took this chance to fire another arrow, this time aimed at Tsubame's heart. Tsubame, reaching for something on her back. In a gust of wind, Hinata's arrow was stopped. This time, the weapon responsible was a giant feather in Tsubame's left hand. Hinata was surprised that her attempt was dismissed again, and the others were disappointed that nothing seemed to work. Tsubame, you little bee. I was going easy on you, but if that's the way you want to play. Pulling out the arrow in her hand, Suzume. Suzume, Roger. X. Tsubame, Suzume. Hurry up and get your lazy ass up. Suzume, I can't move any faster than this, I'm in a lot of pain here. Flinches from the pain. Tsubame, like I give a damn. We're doing that, so come on. Suzume, we're doing that. Now. Why the hell didn't we do it when I could have actually done it flawlessly? Flinches in pain. Tsubame, this is no time to worry about what could have been done then and what's being done now. Let's just do this and finish this brat off. After you help me, I'll let you rest while I finish the others. Suzume, fine, struggling to lift her arm into position. Hinata watched as the two quickly cycled through seals, one faster than the other for obvious reasons. Once finished, they set themselves as if they were about to start a race. Tsubame, go. The two took a running start and flew into the air. There, they began to circle Hinata, who prepared herself. Tsubame plus Suzume, feather play. Before she knew it, the two were flying too fast for her to keep up. She was hit once, then again, and over until she dropped from the sky. She managed to correct herself but was attacked again. In order to avoid taking too much damage, she tried to fly away, but the two women gave chase. Suzume, what's that thing? Hinata, HALO for short, with this I think I can win. Suzume, you expect us to believe that some stupid contraption is gonna help you beat us? That's stupid. Hinata, we'll see, grabbing her bow and an arrow. Looking through her visor, Hinata ready to fire at her first target. She released the arrow and it soared through the air. Tsubame, that girl, she completely wasted an arrow. It looks like that machine does nothing but impair her vision. Stops as she notices the arrow's path. Wait a minute. Did she shoot where she anticipated Suzu to head? Look out, Suzu. She turned, hearing the sound of her partner's voice, and noticed the arrow flying at her. Tsubame, there's no way she can hit her at these speeds, and with Suzu using Sparrow's dance, she's even harder to hit. Suzu maneuvered to dodge the arrow with a graceful technique. She watched as the arrow streaked by her head, right in front of her eyes. Suzume, turning to Hinata, you. Two more arrows flew at her and pinned each of her wings to a tree. Suzume, it hurts, damn it, not again. Tsubame, Suzu. Hinata took aim again and fired another arrow at her pinned opponent. Tsubame quickly cracked her whip, sending a sharp blade of wind to stop it, and succeeded. Her wind attack SD through the arrow as usual, but when it did, it cut a small piece of rope that tied a kunai to it. With the rope severed, the kunai spun through the air and lodged itself in Tsubame's left wing. Preoccupied with the pain, she didn't notice the next arrow that was on its way that LD her hand, forcing her to drop her whip. Tsubame, damn it. Hinata fired another arrow, but Tsubame blew it away using her giant feather. Not faltering, Hinata grabbed another arrow and reared back, taking her time. The arrow flew from Hinata's bow and forced its way through Tsubame's wall of wind. Tsubame was shocked and horrified as the arrow made its way through and cleanly sped through her right wing and into the tree behind. With a hole in her wing, Tsubame fell from the sky. She plummeted and crashed to the ground with a sickening thud. Unable to feel anything but excruciating pain from the waist down, she turned her attention to Hinata to curse her name. As she did, she saw that Hinata had seed back and was ready to put an arrow through her head this time. Hinata let the arrow fly, and as it did, Tsubame knew that she was in grave trouble. Her legs were broken, her wings were useless, and she couldn't reach her weapons. She had no way of avoiding it this time. The arrow streaked through the air, but it was knocked off course by another arrow. Even though its path was obstructed, the arrow still hit its target. Tsubame, damn, that hurt. Grasping the arrow through her body. The arrow had gone through inches below her left bee, all the way with the exception of its tail end. Hinata looked at the angle of her arrow and traced the stray's possible point of origin. She looked up and noticed that there was another woman flying with a small bow in her hand. Suzume, Yumi, trying to wriggle herself free. Neji, another one. Fire fight. Ryubi finally arrived at the site where Naruto and Kono's battle took place, and she did not like what she saw. Ryubi, what did you do? Where is Naruto? Connor, oh, Ryubi, this isn't what it looks like. Ryubi, then what is it? 'Cause it looks like you ked him, tears forming, you idiot. You weren't supposed to K him. You've ruined everything. Connor, it couldn't be helped, he was being difficult and if I didn't finish him, I would be S. Ryubi, then you should have SD. Things would have been better if you did. Connor, see come on now, you can't mean that, we've been friends for years now, I know my brother has a soft spot for you, but, he wouldn't stand for his little brother, kicking the bucket. Ryubi just glared at him. Ryubi, we are not, nor have we ever been friends. The only reason I've put up with you all this time is because of your brother. Connor, come on, don't be mad, Connor will probably S my tail off and shove it down my teeth for making the princess angry. Ryubi, then I'll save him some time and do it myself. Connor, wait. Don't blame me, the only reason why all this happened was because he put up a struggle to save his comrades. Ryubi, his comrades, eyes turning red and exhaling smoke, it is their fault. Naruto would be with me right now if it wasn't for them, if they weren't here, we could have convinced Naruto to come along with very little trouble. It's all their fault. Connor, why yeah, so what are you gonna do now? Ryubi, the rest of them, are as good as S. Connor, why yeah, you do that. As a matter of fact, we should do it together. Afterward, we can have a good time like we used to. Maybe rekindle our friendship. Ryubi, you shouldn't even think of celebrating because I still haven't decided whether I should let you live or K you myself, flapping wings and flying off. Connor, oh, come on Ryubi, you don't have to go that far, you shouldn't be so sensitive, it was only one runt who probably wouldn't have been much use to you anyway, watching as she flies off, I'll tell you what, I'll make it up to you and help in finishing off those guys from the leaf, limping after her. Yumi, TCH. How did you slackers end up in this predicament? Suzume, it's not our fault, that girl is stronger than she looks. Yumi, is she now? Looking at Hinata. Suzume, yeah, we wouldn't be like this if she wasn't. Yumi, that's interesting. Suzume, do you think you could help me? Then we can beat her together. Yumi, no, I want to see how good she is for myself. Besides, you deserve to stay there and think about how you let yourself be beaten, it's disgraceful. Suzume did just that with a sad expression on her face as Yumi floated down to the ground. She walked to within a few meters of Hinata and prepared herself, as did Hinata. With a slight breeze passing, the two began to fire off rounds of arrows at each other. The contest appeared even as one would match the other, an arrow for an arrow. Their little display turned out to be a draw. Yumi was quite impressed at her challenger for putting on a show for her. Yumi, well, I guess you were pretty good, usually it only takes me a few shots to finish off my opponent, but you actually matched me at every turn. You have some nice SKS, but let's see how far those skills can carry you, pulling an arrow. Hinata did the very same and prepared to fire. Yumi, let's see how you handle this, drill point. Shooting an arrow. Hinata retaliated with an arrow of her own but it would prove ineffective. Hinata could see a whirlwind of air surrounding Yumi's arrow as it rotated and destroyed hers. It continued on its way towards Hinata who quickly used a halo to shield herself. The arrow made contact but it didn't stop. It continued to rapidly spin until it began drilling through Hinata's defense. Hinata was surprised as it forced its way through and continued for her. Hinata narrowly avoided certain death by mere inches but was still left with a cut. She could feel the warmth of the blood that ran down her cheek. Yumi, that was interesting, you managed to save yourself, it's such a shame, I was expecting your head to be sped from your shoulders and a geyser of blood to spray into the air as a sign of my victory. Oh well, I guess that just means that I can have a little more fun with you then, floating down, prepare yourself, putting away her bow. Hinata, do you mean you want to fight me using taijutsu? Yumi, exactly. Hinata, if we just use taijutsu I may be able to win. With my jutsu enhancing my abilities and the reading ability of my halo, I should have the advantage. Yumi, let's do this. Charging. Hinata prepared herself as Yumi attacked. Right away, Yumi attacked using a bicycle kick. Hinata sidestepped and threw a punch to her head, but Yumi dodged it by bending her N. She then ducked under Hinata's extended arm and landed a palm to Hinata's chest, forcing her back. Before sliding too far back, Hinata grabbed Yumi's arm and slammed her to the ground. Yumi grabbed onto Hinata as well and yanked her closer to kick her in the head. Hinata saw the kick coming and jumped to Yumi's left side. She reared back and threw a punch to the ground. The ground cracked from the force of her blow and dust was kicked up. As it cleared, Hinata watched as Yumi floated back to the ground and withdrew her wings into her body. 1. Yumi, Dance of the Goddess. Hinata quickly launched an assault of her own. She used a palm thrust, but it was evaded. She followed it with a horizontal chop aimed at Yumi's end, but it was ducked. She continued with a flurry of punches, thrusts, and kicks, but they too were all evaded with grace and agility. Yumi just chuckled at her efforts. Hinata attacked again only to be jumped over. She quickly attempted a back kick. Jumping onto only her left leg, Yumi blocked Hinata's kick using her right leg as a guard. Though she avoided taking damage, the force of Hinata's kick forced her to spin. Using this to her advantage, Yumi came back with a spinning roundhouse to Hinata's head which caused her to stumble. Hinata turned around in time to get another palm thrusted into her chest. She stumbled back even more and into a tree. She tried to force her opponent back with a punch, but it was unsuccessful. Yumi ducked to her left, dodging the punch, and slammed Hinata to the ground in a reverse armbar. The rest of the Hyugas watched in horror as Hinata screamed in agony. Lady Hinata. The first guard shouted. Lord Hiashi. The second said while turning to Hiashi. Hanabi closed her eyes as tightly as she could and covered her ears for fear of what would come next. Neji looked on and wanted to help, but... Yumi, I expected to hear a crack by now. You must be pretty flexible for me to have to bend so far back, applying more pressure. Hinata continued to scream as she was being TD. She tried all she could to resist, but she wasn't strong enough to free herself. She couldn't hold out much longer. Yumi could feel it. Just a little more and she would get the sound she craved. She continued to apply the pressure, but then she noticed something. She quickly released her hold and moved away from Hinata and... Hinata, F.A., father. Hiashi had attacked in hopes of putting an end to this and saving his daughter. Hiashi, are you alright, Hinata? Hinata, yes, getting up while holding her shoulder. Hiashi, you did well, I'm proud of you, but I'll take it from here. Hinata, thank you but no, this is my fight and I must finish it. Hiashi, are you sure? Hinata simply nodded and looked at her opponent who watched from a tree branch. Yumi, so you want to continue our fight? That's good because I'd hate to have to make an unnecessary K to get to my prey, licking her lips. Hinata, I'm the only person you have to worry about. 1. Tsubame? Yeah? Well, too bad the same doesn't apply to you, preparing to fan her giant feather. Hiashi grabbed Hinata to protect her when, suddenly, an arrow penetrated the top of Tsubame's head. Yumi, stay out of this, you filth. With bow in hand. Hinata and Hiashi were shocked at this. Suzume, what the hell, Yumi? You're taking things too far. How could you K your own comrade that was only trying to help you by getting rid of that pest? 1. Yumi. You as well? Drawing back, you pathetic piece of garbage, firing. The Hyugas watched in horror as Yumi K'd her own comrades. Suzume's head was sped off her shoulders in the very way Hinata's would have. Blood began to gush from her N and sprinkled the ground below. Hiashi, Hinata, I can't let you fight this woman, she's gone mad. Hinata, but I must, by fighting her, I feel that I can grow stronger, then I know that I will be able to protect those important to me, looking over at her sister then thinking of Naruto. Yumi, you heard her daddy, she wants to fight so step aside. Otherwise I'll have to give you a warning shot, and make it where you can never have another child, in a sadistic tone. Hiashi glared and unwillingly complied. He watched Yumi carefully, not trusting her even the slightest bit as he made his way back to the others. Hinata, I won't let you hurt him, my family, or anyone else, I'll win no matter what. Yumi, that's it, I started to get more and more excited as I pummeled you and beat you like the lowly insect you are, but now I can hardly contain myself. Sadistic smile. Feathers began to grow from her arms as they turned into wings with claws on her hands. Her tail changed to one of feathers and her feet also began to change from normal to sharp talons. Yumi, Now, I'll get serious. Grabbing her bow and arrows. Hinata quickly put her visor back on and grabbed her weapons. Yumi released arrow after arrow. Knowing that it would just be a waste of ammunition, Hinata decided to dodge while trying to get in a good shot of her own. In the exchange, Yumi's arrows drilled into the earth with thunderous force. Using this and Hinata's preoccupation with it to her advantage, Yumi found an opening and attacked. She instantly got to Hinata with her speed and with a single punch to the gut sent her flying for a few feet. Hinata picked herself up but Yumi was right back on her, this time with a flurry of swipes ended with a kick. Hinata got back up with bloody scratches and slashes and sped clothes just in time to see Yumi drawing back on her bow once more. Yumi chuckled and smiled as she took aim. Before she could fire however, she was interrupted by Hiashi. He attempted to catch her off guard and would have succeeded if not for Yumi's enhanced senses. Yumi dodged, barely being grazed by Hiashi's gentle fist strike, and tried to deliver a clawed palm to his back. Hiashi quickly activated his rotation technique and repelled his attacker. Yumi was forced back but she would put an end to Hiashi's meddling. She drew back and aimed, waiting for the moment he stopped spinning. This idea was, however, halted by an arrow to Yumi's shoulder. She turned her attention to where it came from. Hinata, father, get away while you can. Hiashi jumped back to increase the space between himself and Yumi. She saw this but wasn't too concerned by it. She turned to see that she could now see Hinata's eyes. In them was the look of determination, fearlessness, and anger. Yumi, what beautifully lovely eyes you have, but you shouldn't be so angry with me. Your father was the one that attacked me. I simply retaliated, yanking the arrow from her shoulder. Without a single word, Hinata dropped her visor across her eyes and began to fire at Yumi. Yumi instantly reacted and returned fire. Like earlier, it turned out to be a firefight as the two let the arrows fly. Yumi was expecting an opening to appear like before, but it wasn't happening. Hinata didn't appear to concern herself with the arrows, she was barely even budging. Whenever an arrow came at her, Hinata would either move slightly to avoid it, jump or fly to a different location, or divert it using her halo defenses. Yumi couldn't read her quite well, and this was beginning to distract her. The first sign of this taking its toll was how an arrow skimmed Yumi's wing feathers. The attacks were gradually getting closer and closer to making slight contact. Eventually one arrow hit its mark as she stopped moving around as much. An arrow embedded itself in Yumi's side as a shock to her. She couldn't believe it. This was the first time any projectile had hit her, but it wouldn't be the last. Using Yumi's surprise to her advantage, Hinata caught her again in the arm and again in the leg. No longer wanting to put up with being a still target, Yumi retreated behind a tree to gather herself. Yumi, damn that insolent little bee. This is no longer any fun for me. I wanted to see adorable expressions, hear her groans and cries of agony as I TD her with our little playtime, but she ruined it all by causing me pain. Pulling out the arrows. Hinata readied herself and awaited her opponent's reappearance. After a few seconds, she heard her voice. Yumi, you know, now that you've hurt me, our little play date is over. Now I have to make you pay for the pain you caused, both physical and emotional. Jumping from behind the tree. She jumped into plain sight, becoming an easy target for Hinata. Unfortunately, Yumi had taken aim and fired an arrow at Hinata's family. Hinata quickly fired an arrow and knocked Yumi's out of the air, but there was a second not too far behind it. Hinata had no time to fire another as the arrow enclosed on her family. Neji and the two assistants jumped out front, but Hiashi ran out to meet the arrow. Hinata watched on, fearing the worst. Hiashi instantly used his rotation to try and stop this attack. The arrow slowed slightly, but it appeared to still be drilling its way through. It finally came to an end as the arrow stopped and dropped to the ground just a couple of feet away. Hinata sighed in relief, but it would be short-lived. Thanks to a warning from her HALO, Hinata avoided having her head taken off. An arrow streamed by, destroying her HALO and leaving a cut on her head above her left ear. She watched as the pieces broke and crumbled to the ground before noticing that Yumi was firing again. Using one ring to reinforce the other, Hinata tried to defend herself. The force of the arrow drove her back before she diverted it and it crashed into the ground beside her. She quickly drew an arrow herself but noticed that something was askew. There were now 3 enemies. Hinata, what? What's going on? Yumi, Dance of the Goddesses. There were now 3 enemies for Hinata to worry about. Even though she could barely get a glimpse of them, Hinata could see that Yumi had undergone another transformation. She now had 3 pairs of wings, arms, upper back, and lower back, and darkened skin with markings on her face. The 3 Yumis fired at Hinata, who took cover behind a tree. The arrows exploded into the surrounding area, one in the ground, one through the tree, and another through another tree. Hinata ran for her life, just narrowly being missed with each step. Coming upon some rocks, Hinata dove for cover. Once again the surrounding area exploded from 3 arrows, planting themselves into the surroundings. As Yumi poured on round after round of arrows, Hinata noticed something. Anytime the area was destroyed by the arrows, there were only 3 explosions at a time, but Hinata, they're occurring at completely different times, in a pattern, each and every round, listening to the sounds of destruction. She thought it through and decided to test out her assumption. She stepped out into the open and fired 4 arrows at 2 of the Yumis. They retaliated with 1 arrow each, destroying 2 of the 4 and streaked towards Hinata. She observed and shielded herself. Something came to her attention once again as she somehow managed to protect herself before taking cover. Hinata, just then, when I attacked, 2 of my arrows were destroyed, but the 2 behind them continued and went right through the targets. Also, when I blocked the incoming arrows, the order they hit my defense was from the left, the center, and lastly the right, the same order my arrows were destroyed. When I fired, I shot from right to left, and even though it looked like they all fired at the same time, that must mean there's just one, but she's moving so fast that it looks like there are more, whispers. Now that she understood the trick, she just had to figure out how to defeat it. Coming up with nothing particular and forced out of hiding, it was either fight, flee, or S. She grabbed her bow and returned fire rapidly and randomly in hopes of hitting. This continued on until Hinata was forced to stop. Hinata had run out of arrows and only had 1 left. With how fast Yumi was moving, she knew that she had no chance of winning a close combat, if she could even get close, that is. She had to make the next shot account for something. She stood her ground, drew back and waited for a miraculous chance. She knew that it wouldn't be much of a problem for her opponent to hit her, even if she ran. The only thing she could do was defend herself and hope that things would work out. Yumi chuckles, "This is the end, crown of arrows." Shooting 9 arrows consecutively. Hinata reinforced her defense once again with more halos so that she could stop Yumi's attack and retain a chance to fire back. The first arrow collided with her defense and continued to drill, followed by the second and third, slowly working their way through as they were focused on one spot. What was Hinata to do? Hinata, I can't give up. Hinata turned all of her focus on her last line of defense. She became enshrouded in light as she poured a lot of her chakra into her halo shield. The Hyuga party watched as her 2 wings grew and split into 4 separate fairy-like wings that fluttered as she tried to hold her ground. Suddenly, from out of nowhere, a blast destroyed the arrows. Both Hinata and Yumi, just the one, were shocked at this. Who could it have been? Hinata knew that it most likely couldn't have come from any of her family, but she had a hunch that she knew exactly who it was. She and Yumi looked around the forest and saw a figure in the trees. They were both surprised to see that it was Yumi. WHO told you to butt in. Looking at the quiet figure, what is it with dragons and their superiority complex? Again, nothing, well. Aren't you going to say anything? Silence, very well then, we'll finish this when I'm done with. As she turned around to find her prey, an arrow penetrated her body, and exploded. Hinata had placed an explosive note around the arrow before firing. Parts of Yumi's body disintegrated in the blast. With her foe vanquished, it was finally over. Hinata, thank you for helping me. That will be all for this video. Be sure to like, subscribe, share, and comment down below for more videos. Goodbye.